Okay, so our first question that we have this week is from an anonymous sender from Denver, Colorado, and their question is, I feel stuck in a karmic loop of pleasing and a fear of disappointing my family. I do not know how to break free and develop the skill to see myself outside of them. I feel I need to please them, and I recently decided to quit my continuing education, and I do not know how to let them down as they are old and put a huge importance on education. I feel the biggest lesson in my lifetime will be individuating from them, but I would like some guidance on how. Okay. Thank you so much, Anonymous, for sending in this question. So, what I'm hearing you ask is, I feel stuck in a karmic loop of people pleasing, fear of disappointing my family, and you feel like you need to individuate from them, but you don't know how, and you're looking for some clarity on that. So, first of all, I just want to honor the courage it takes to even like name this out loud. Because as a family constellation therapy facilitator and somebody who works day in and day out with family dynamics and family patterns, and most commonly enmeshment, so many of us carry this exact tension between loyalty to our family and longing to have our own individuality and the threshold between that. And I definitely don't think personally that there is a right answer and a wrong answer. I am the queen of yes and. And so that's kind of where my gut is telling us we need to go in terms of helping you get some clarity and guidance around this. Because it's so human to want to like please our parents, please our family, especially when they're getting older. You mentioned that they're aging and they may come from a generation when education has a huge value and it's been a core pillar for them. And now we're living in, or rather, you're living in 2025, where education is not so much of an importance. And there's a lot of systems around education that are changing, and how we are integrated in that system is changing. And so, yes, we want you to feel connected to your family. We want you to feel like you belong to your family. And there's a difference between belonging and fitting in. And when you can start to shift the story that you've created in your life or that has been created around you, that in order to fit into your family, you need to have a continued education and achieve some kind of education. If you can start to reframe that, I think you'll start to feel a bit more free. Because the beauty of belonging is that you belong to your family no matter what. Education, money, status, the car you drive, the person you date, the clothes you wear, the achievements that you create, that does not increase your belonging or your value in a family system. Your value in a family system is inherent from the day that you were conceived. The minute your soul goes into your human body and says, I belong in this family. I'm a part of this family. And then it's as we grow up in these family systems that we start to believe that our value might not be inherent, because we may have to change ourselves in order to quote unquote belong. But actually, we're just trying to change ourselves to fit in, to get connection, or to feel that we exist in harmony in a family system. And so what I would call this from the lens of FCT, or family constellation, is that there's some kind of loyalty to the system that's keeping you entangled. And so maybe unconsciously your whole life, you've been trying to carry out these family values and these expectations to belong. But now we need to actually go back to the root a little bit. So my question to you to take it from here is, what happened in your childhood that started this pattern? Like, when did you start thinking consciously, I need to be what others want of me for connection? Now, if you wanted to go subconsciously, and when your body started feeling the threat of disconnection, and when it subconsciously started to realize that you needed to change who you were, that's like EMDR, brain spotting, could be a plant medicine journey. Like, accessing that is going to require a deeper, more focused strategy. But there are probably ages where you may have noticed or have memories or remember things of when you just wanted to make your parents happy. And you may have this kind of like confused or uncomfortable feeling around that memory, that might be a really curious indication of potentially that age is when your brain and your body started to separate and you compromised your authenticity for connection. And I know this is like a lot of really big stuff, but like this is the stuff that I would look at in a reading or in an FCT session to try to understand what the pattern is. But even deeper, if you look at things like Dr. Gabor Mate's compassionate inquiry, he would also be asking you similar questions because what we share in this healing space is what is the root cause? Did you start feeling that you needed to change yourself? And when you can connect to that inner child version of you in a meditation, in a quantum experience like FCT, then you start redefining your relationship to that age. Because what trauma does, and trauma of all kinds, is that it separates the body from the mind. And so what you're doing in those EMDRs, the inner child healing, the parts work, the somatic therapy, all of that, even traditional therapy can, if the therapist is good at getting you into your body, because psychoanalyzing everything just keeps you up here. But we're trying to bring the mind and the body back together. There's a couple things that I want to bring forward that were intuitively coming through as I was addressing your question and kind of thinking about it before we started recording today. And so I would really look at things like divorce, financial stress at home, arguing or fighting. What break in connection were you living and experiencing on a day-to-day basis? That will give you an idea of where you started to disconnect from your authenticity for that connection. So, because before your mind could start to consciously become aware of this pattern, your brain took over and said, we do this or everything is going to fall apart, which is just simply not true. But we can lovingly look at that because as children, we think that if everything is going well, then we must be good. And if everything is not going well around us, then we must be bad. And so we're very egoic as children. We're naturally a little narcissistic because our brains haven't developed enough to understand the connection, or rather the disconnection, the both of those, of what has to do with us or not. So if our parents are fighting over financial stress or time management, we think we may have done something wrong. And that is the brain's part in this whole makeup of who you are. But then there's the body. And so that could be like a whole other podcast episode or like another show in and of itself. But you need to understand what's happening in your body when you're challenged to individuate. And that's what I think is happening here, is there's a challenge to individuate and make decisions outside of everyone's approval because something in your body is saying, fight, flight, fawn, freeze. We're not going to fit in. I'm not going to use the word belong because I'm going to stay true to my own value that you belong no matter what. But I'm not fitting in. I'm not getting the approval that I need for connection and love. So my body is going to start telling me I'm in danger. And so when you can understand that and you can really go into that experience, then what you'll do is you'll train your brain to create more space for clarity and confidence in your choices. You need more tools in your proverbial toolbox, because when you're challenged to speak up and say, I'm not going to continue my education, your body won't be throwing you into survival mode. And we can't always make aligned decisions in survival mode. I mean, I've met a lot of great people in this life who are constantly in survival mode and been very successful, but I don't recommend it. I really don't recommend it. We want your brain and your body to come back together so that when you have the space within you to say, Mom, Dad, I'm not going to continue my education anymore, and this is why, then you can have an adult, mature conversation with them rather than going into some triggered place, which is what sounds like it's happening. And if there has been a difficulty for you to individuate from your family, looking at those inner bodily parts of you are going to help you understand why you started doing that in the first place. Lack of individuation. You know, as kids, we listen to what our parents say. We put it on a pedestal. We put them on a pedestal and we say, whatever they say is true. And then we become adults and we're like, oh, wait, nope, shit. Actually, I don't agree with like most of that. And like undoing that just takes time. It really just takes time. It takes a little bit of work and it takes some dedication. And you can bring yourself back home to your true and authentic version of you. You can, because that version of you, they know what they want. They know where they want to go in life without needing anyone's approval. And when you make those decisions, we want those to come from a place of inner connection, clarity, and confidence. There is a really big difference between love and agreement. I also want to offer you another perspective around individuation because when you come from a family pattern or a family system that embraces enmeshment, one of the hardest skills can be in the process of individuation is realizing that you can deeply love your parents and still choose a different path. But I think first your body needs to feel safe to do that because your nervous system might still be carrying that old message. If I disappoint them, I'll lose love. So there's a lot of different practices that I would guide you through if you were in an FCT with me. I might have you imagine standing yourself at the edge of a family system in the front and turning to look at your lineage behind you and bow in respect to like their choices and their values, but then turning back around, facing forward with them behind you and turning to face your own path and like really visualizing like what is in front of your path. What's out there in front of you if it's not your family blocking your path because you're afraid that they won't love you? They're behind you, which is you in your rightful role. And I'm getting into some of the logistics of FCT, but that's my perspective. So part of individuation is noticing the fear is real, but it belongs to a younger version of me, and the adult me can handle disagreement and disappointment differently. So when you make a choice for yourself, it may look like disappointment to them at first, but it's actually you stepping into your truth. And over time, I know we don't think this, but families will adjust. Oftentimes they do. And if they don't, you know that they cannot continue forward with you. And there is a whole nother piece of grief in that. But it's going to be important for you as you go into the body and you relive some of these inner feelings, this fear to individuate, to invite compassion for that younger self who still feels that she has to please in order to be safe. And you may have to tell her, you know what? Your parents, they may never fully understand. And the exciting part of that is that we don't have to people please, or they don't have to understand in order for us to live our life. So when there is guilt that comes up, or when there's fear, instead of shutting it down and being like, oh my God, going into that like loop of the mind, or maybe it's happening in your body where your gut starts to hurt, or your heart, or your chest, or you start feeling like you're shutting down, pause. And you can ask yourself in that moment, connecting with your body, maybe you place your hand over your heart and you just say, whose voice is this right now? Is it mine? Maybe. Is it my family's? Gosh, yeah, it feels like mom or dad or both. Oh man, and I'm noticing that pressure happening in my body right now. And then when you go to have that conversation with your family, whenever that is, you can say something like, Mom, Dad, I know education is important to you, and I respect that. I respect what's important to you. But right now, what I need for myself is ... And then pause. Let the linger silence if it needs to. And instead of like jumping to conclusions about how they may feel or nervously chatting to fill the space because you're anxious, give your parents the space to sit with their own emotions. You don't need to caretake for theirs. Just give yourself some space. Because at the end of the day, Anonymous, what you're actually asking yourself in those moments where you're feeling challenged to honor your own needs and desires is this: am I still safe? Am I still loved, even if I do what I want? You're not selfish at all. So do you trust yourself to make your own decisions? And the beautiful thing about trust is it's time and consistency. But knowing that and knowing yourself helps that trust blossom like miracle grow. You just got to give yourself some time and consistency. Okay? Thank you so much, Anonymous, for sending in that question. I know there's going to be so many people in the community who are going to resonate with that really deeply. And I just want you to remember, individuation is not about rejecting them. It's about including them in your heart while walking your own path. All right?